We will now move to our third speaker, where we are going to see Serampore and Beyond, Rise and Mass Printing in India by Colonial Navneet Chabra. Uh, Colonial retired Navneet Chabra is a decorated officer and 20-year veteran of Indian Army. During his military career, he held several distinguished posts and commanded the 14th Rajput Regiment in Kashmir as a colonel. In 2007, following a call to serve the Lord, he took premature retirement. He took premature retirement and served as National Executive Director for the Gideons International in India. In 2019, he was appointed International Director to overseas Asia and Pacific Rim. He also holds a master's in Biblical and Theological Studies from Dallas Theological Seminary and currently serves as a consultant with the Gideons International. Colonial Navneet and his wife, Binder, resides in Hyderabad. They have two married sons, Jonathan and Joshua. We invite Colonial Navneet Chabra to speak on topic Serampore and Beyond, Rise of Mass and Printing in India. Before you speak, sir, I would like to mention one thing. I was so happy to hear the names of your sons, Jonathan and Joshua. Jonathan was the name of my husband, who is no more now, and Joshua is the name of my son.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sister Varsha, for the introduction. Thank you, Dr. Victor, for educating us on the genesis of the printing and how Goa became the epicenter. Thank you, Sister Fiba, for reminding us that what complexity and challenges we all face when we have to get from the oral onto the written text or onto the written language. Now, as I was looking at how to begin my talk, Serampore and Beyond, the thing which comes to my mind is just one word, which is sovereign. And I want to begin with the fact that our God is sovereign. That means he is in control. And whenever he has to do or accomplish something for a kingdom, he uses ordinary people like us. And in the 18th and 19th century, he picked up three of such men, William Carey, William Ward, and Joshua Marshman. These three men had different gifts which God had given to them, but they came to one place, and when they came to one place, they had one vision, and that one vision was aligned to God's will, and that was to establish the Serampore mission. And this Serampore mission is about an hour's drive from Calcutta. And I happened to be there just last week as I had some work in Calcutta. And I want to tell you this, that this Serampore mission actually revolutionized the printing, wherein printing from small levels came across to much larger levels. Printing from the field of only religious text moved into the knowledge phase and the education and cultural preservation phase. So today I'm going to speak on this as my subject, the new era of knowledge sharing. As I brought out that printing revolutionized knowledge sharing in India. Now, it began with the missionaries bringing in the religious text, how to share gospel. And it was so good to hear how the Tamil language became one of the first languages in which certain religious texts were translated, printed, and handed over. But yet slowly it transitioned from faith-based printing to bring out knowledge sharing in the field of education. And the word cultural preservation, when we look at it, was something which was explicitly given out in the introductory video. That means the way the languages, what we have in India, the dialects, what we have in our country, that they are being preserved, they are being made from oral to written text. And that itself is the new era which began with Serampore mission getting established. And it played a key role in shaping mass printing. Now let's try and connect the historical evolution of printing from Goa to Serampore. So what I would like to bring out to you was that initially the focus of printing was on religious text, but Serampore broadened the focus, as I shared earlier, to include education and cultural preservation. The word cultural preservation, as I explained, may look little hi-fi word, but actually it is only trying to preserve the languages and the dialects what we have within our country. Now, also, this period saw the transition from coming out of the Portuguese domain to a British colonial rule. And under the British colonial rule, we had more freedom to print. That means to come out of just the faith based printing to the knowledge based printing, what we had. So the printing presses started printing the educational materials, and the printing industry became more diverse. Now, printing became not just a tool for spiritual enhancement, but also education. Now, missionaries, and this is important for us to understand, that they started using printing to spread the gospel. That's on one side, but also educate the masses. Now, it's important for us to understand, and we can see the footprints of that when we travel across several states. There are Christian schools. Many of us would always want our children and stand in lines to get admission in those schools. But remember the genesis of this, the education began with some people who aligned themselves to God's will and included education as part of their agenda along with the gospel preaching. Now, missionaries contributed to language development by translating texts. And as we go further in this talk, we will see how certain languages were developed, and that will help us understand that much of the language preservation what we have, the missionaries did have a significant role in that. The Serampore trio, I did share these names in my introduction. Let me try and expand on their introductions. Brother William Carey, no words to explain the gifts and the talents he had, the heart for the Lord. He was also a botany professor, but a pioneer in Bible translations. And then we have Joshua Marshman. He was an educator and a scholar. And we had Brother William Ward, who was expert in the field of printing. And that's what I said. When God has to do something, he brings ordinary people with different gifts at one place, align them to his will, give them a vision. And that's what these three men did. And let's move ahead from here on to the next slide, please. See, these three men were the one who established the Serampore mission and thereafter the Serampore College. But let's try and understand the strategic importance of Serampore. Like I said, Serampore is about an hour away from Calcutta. It was then a Danish colonial territory, and it had that freedom from British censorship. It's something like, if you have to draw akin or try to draw an analogy, it's something like having a union territory and you are having a state. So a union territory is absolved of the state governments which govern. So this was how Serampore operated under the Danish colony. It allowed publication of materials which were restricted under British rule. So they had that autonomy under them. It was in proximity to Calcutta. Now, Calcutta was emerging as a cultural hub. And I would like to bring out to you several scholars have had their birthplaces, and the way they have brought up the culture are from Bengal and from Calcutta. And Serampore was just co-located with Calcutta. So there was religious liberty, there was printing autonomy, and at the same time, proximity to an emerging cultural hub, Calcutta. Now let's look at Serampore Mission, a crossroad of faith and knowledge. It was founded on January 10, 1800 with Baptist Missionary Society support. So call it as BMS, Baptist Missionary Society support. Now, initially, it focused on religious education, but later evolved as an academic institution. And in 1818, it was renamed as Serampore College, aimed at training indigenous leaders. And as we try and understand Serampore Mission getting as Serampore College, one of the most important ethics what they followed was cross-cultural collaboration. They worked alongside with Hindu and Muslim scholars to translate texts. They showed deep respect for Indian languages and traditions, and trained local craftsmen in printing were used to boost the industry. So important for us to understand the Serampore mission established 1800, turned into Serampore College, and believed in certain ethics of collaboration with other faiths to promote the translations. Now we get into multilingual publishing and technical innovations. And here I would like to bring out certain printing breakthroughs. Now, there were typesets which were developed for 40 languages. Simple, there were complex script challenges which were solved or resolved for mass printing, and they expanded from 6 presses by 1815 to about printing 212,000 volumes by 1832. So that was like an explosion in the field of printing. There was script and language development, and this is what Sister Feba was speaking about. Design typefaces for Indian scripts, balancing standardization and regional variations. Brother William Carey published Bengali and Sanskrit grammar books, produced dictionary and multilingual reference works. Now let's look at the next thing, that is their contribution in the field of religious and cultural contributions. Now, printed the first complete Bengali Bible in 1809. Now, it's an important landmark when we see through it. And then we see they preserved Hindu scriptures like Ramayana and Vedas. They made sacred texts more accessible to common people, encouraged interfaith dialogue through publishing. So these were the efforts which were put in and how they contributed. And then we get across to some of the educational side, what they contributed. They produced textbooks and scientific works for all communities and published technical guides to promote practical knowledge. So now you see that the printing is getting into a different level altogether, not just from the gospel expansion, but onto the field of education and also technical education. Let's look at the next slide, which is social impact, education, journalism, and knowledge democratization. Now let's look at the education revolution. Created learning materials for women, Dalits, and tribal group. See, there are several groups during those times which were ignored, but they needed learning materials. So education is reaching out to people who were the unreached people during those times through this mission. Established Serampore College and school network across India, standardized curriculum in multiple languages. And now this is where I want to bring out that launch India's first periodical, and you can see it on the screen, which is Samachar Darpan, and covered social reforms and practical knowledge, laid the foundation for literacy and publishing movements, helped democratize knowledge, making it accessible to all social classes. Now, this in short was Serampore mission and how and what they impacted in various fields, whether it is education, whether it is culture, whether it is religion. Now, let's get to the 20th century. The printing press underwent a revolutionary transformation, leading to the development of new fonts and typefaces for various Indian languages. This advancement allowed mass printing of books, newspaper, religious texts, making them widely accessible. During this time, several Bibles and religious texts were printed in these languages. I will name some of the languages where development was taking place during those times was Hindi, Punjabi, Telugu, Kannada, Oriya, Assamese, Gujarati, Marathi. These languages, along with Malayalam, played a crucial role in spreading education, religious teaching, and knowledge to a broader audience. And what you are seeing on the screen, actually, I tabulated it so that it becomes easy for us to understand certain years when the full Bibles were translated and printed and who all contributed to it. So what I've tried to bring out in my talk is connecting Goa to Serampore, then expanding the scope of the work of Serampore and how it impacted in various fields. With this, I come to the end of my talk and hand over back to Reverend Varsha. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Thank you very much for the precious and very important information that you shared with us. It is really going to be helpful for us and our community in India and the generation to come. We are
Indian Christian Day. Yeshu Bhakti Divas. Love, serve and celebrate.